Afternoon and good morning, and welcome to this session. I see we've got colleagues who are still joining, just giving them a minute. Apologies for the delayed start. Right, I think, yeah. We're just giving them a minute, then we start. Right, I think we are good to go. So once again, good afternoon and good morning. I understand we've got colleagues that are in the US who are on the call. Good morning and welcome. So welcoming you to this session ahead of the Summer Fast Food Show that will be taking place in next month, June 12 to 14. So USA Trade Hub and Westgrow are coordinating on this session to make sure that firms are ready for the event. Without saying much, I call upon George Makore, who is going to do welcoming remarks. George and I are in the trenches. So I'm handing over to him. George, over to you.
Thanks very much, Cosmas. Yes, indeed, we are in the trenches as we've been over the years. And let me say good morning to those that are on the US side and good afternoon to colleagues from the region. And welcome to this very important event where we are going to try and walk each other through preparations for exhibition at the forthcoming Summer Fast Food Show. So my role today is just to introduce or highlight to you who the US Trade Hub is. And for those that have heard this before, please forgive me for repeating the same thing. But there might be those that are joining us for the first time and might be wondering who exactly is USA Trade Hub. We are a USAID funded project, which has been in existence since October 2016. And it's a 6-year project, which is due to end in September this year. And we work in 9 out of the 16 SADC countries, and the 9 countries are led by South Africa. Then there's Botswana, Eswatini, Lesotho, Namibia, Malawi, Mozambique, and Zambia, as well as Angola. I tend to forget Angola sometimes because it's the latest kid on the block. But those are the 9 countries that the project operates in. And what do we do? What have we been doing in those 9 countries? So our first objective, our mandate is to work with firms from the 8 countries out of the 9 countries that I mentioned to help create and increase trade between the 8 countries and South Africa. So the role here is to increase exports to South Africa from the 8 countries in the region. Now, what we do is we identify firms that would be in need of a market in South Africa, and then identify potential buyers in South Africa that will be looking for products from the region. This could be finished products for consumption, or it could be raw materials that would be used to for further production and then end up being exported to other parts of the world. The second objective is where if there are firms that are looking for funding whether it is capital or also technology transfer to help with increasing production or increasing, improving the quality of the products. We then identify potential investors in South Africa who will be looking at expanding their footprint into the region. And then we link them up with those that will be looking for such investment. Then last but not least is our objective 3, which is mainly looking at working with firms from all the 9 countries, including South Africa, that will be looking for a market or markets in the US under the African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA. And to a great extent, this is the reason why we are here today, and the reason why we are one of the areas that we support firms with is attending such events as the one that we're going to be talking about here today. And ideally, we would then have the firms go to the other side in the US and meet with buyers in order to establish networks, in order to then meet with those that might want to do business with us. And that I will leave that particular objective, and we will then be able to discuss that as we go on with the event today. I would want to then say that let's use this opportunity to ask all the questions that we might have and exchange views on how best we can take advantage of this opportunity so that by the time we go over to the US, we will be ready to do business. Let me not take too much of your time, and just take this opportunity to wish you fruitful discussions, and hope that by the time we end this event, we will have clarity on most of the things that we need to know. With those words, I want to hand you over back to Cosmas. Thank you.
George, thank you very much for the overview on USA TradeHub. And ladies and gentlemen, that takes us to the next item on the agenda, which is just for me to take you through what's going to be happening today. So we have heard the opening remarks from George. So we were supposed to have the show organizer, Special Food Association. Unfortunately, there's been a clash of events, so the whole team is engaged elsewhere, unable to attend. But many thanks to our booth builder, Alex Displays. We have worked with Alex Displays for a number of years. So he will also help in terms of just information around the design of the booths. We will also have Ohaufi from the South African Consulate General in New York, one of our key partners. They also talk to us around some of the activities that will be taking place around the event. So from the 9th up to the 15th. George Wood, who is Director, Customer Operations, Group SSA, also talk about best practices on shipping samples to the United States. So samples, obviously, they form part of their key component to exporting. Then we'll also have Erica Jobe from Westgrow. So Erica is going to talk to us about one of the tools that they have developed, which is the Cape Trade Portal. So Erica will share more information around that. Then we'll have our questions and answers, and then we close. So we're aiming to close at 5 p.m. South African time. So without further ado, allow me to call on Steve Felder, please, to take us through the show, the booth outlay at the Summer Funds Food Show. Over to you, Steve.
Good afternoon, everybody. How are you? So for this show, the pavilion will have 20 separate 10 by 10s. Each 10 by 10 will be shared by 2 vendors from South Africa and surrounding areas. It's a pavilion we've used before, so some of you may be familiar with it. You know, Cosmos is.
Sorry, Steve, are you projecting anything?
Oh, I'm sorry. Why won't I can't get my screen on? I think you had turned my screen off, Cosmos, originally.
Excuse me?
I can't get my it says you stopped my video on your end, so I can't start it.
Not this one. Let's see. Lubabalo, can you help and allow Steve to share his screen? Well, that's probably, yeah. Erica?
Hey, Cos, and hey, Steve. Steve, there's a little green button at the bottom that should say share screen. It's activated for me, so you should be able to share your screen. And we're now seeing your team screen being shared. So if you're able, I can certainly see your sharing, but if you're able to share the presentation.
Can you guys see me?
Oh, I can see you.
I can see you,
see your
but not your screen.
Okay. I do not do Zooms at all, really, so I'm not.
Luba, do we have Steve's presentation and we can just share it on his behalf?
No, we don't have the presentation on our side.
Steve, do you want to maybe share it with us and then we'll be happy to share it?
Share what? Just the information?
Yeah. Or send the presentation to us.
Cosmos, I'd email you all the cats that I had.
Yeah, can you send to me, Steve?
Cosmo?
Yes, can you hear me? All right. Looks like you. Something. So there's something behind.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Steve, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, you can send to me and I can share. I can project for you.
All right, I sent it to you about an hour ago. Did you not get that?
Let's see.
I'll be more than happy to resend it.
Right now we can see your. Right, yeah.
Steve, we can actually see your screen and how you're sending the email to Cos. So you might just want to.
Okay, so then we can.
Yeah, just double click and
now we can. Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is one version of what the pavilion will look like. I think there's this will be a better version that shows how it is with graphics. Okay. So each 10 by 10 is going to look just like this with the appropriate graphics in there. So each vendor will have one panel to display a graphic and their product.
Mm-hmm.
And each of those panels are 4 foot wide by 8 foot tall. And then each vendor gets up to 4 shelves to display their product on. The spacing of the shelves can be adjusted every 1 inch. So we can accommodate the spacing of what the product can be very easily. Go back to another drawing. And each vendor will have one display case. Display cases will each have 2 shelves. There's sliding doors in the back that are lockable. Each 10 by 10 area will have one 2 by 4 table and a couple chairs. There's track lighting above each section. So we were able to shine the lights back at the product so the pavilion has great lighting. And then in these columns, You can see in each column, these darker squares, that's a little display window. So each column, each middle column will have that display window, and there's a light in there to illuminate what is inside.
Yes, and then-
That's about the gist of it. Like I said, every 10 by 10 is going to look the same as far as construction, so it should be very easy to decipher that the entire area is part of it is together, part of South Africa. Any questions for anybody? From anybody?
Steve, thank you very much.
course.
Right. So I'm not able. Okay, I see there are some questions already starting to come in. I see Sally has got a question.
Okay.
Someone is asking, can you repeat the size of the display cases?
So the display case, each individual display case is 4 feet wide. They're 20 inches deep, and they are 3 feet tall.
Right. And another one is how many panels do we get for the artwork?
Each vendor gets 1 panel that's 4 foot wide by 8 feet tall.
Right. So colleagues, I've just decided, since Steve took less than the allocated time, to accommodate questions related to his presentation within the 20-minute slot. So yeah, then not much. Okay, I think this is just a comment. Are the electric outputs to plug in a TV?
What type of TV will they have? Well, and let me start by saying each vendor, there'll be a cord in the corner, so they'll have an outlet there to charge a phone or plug their laptop in. So that we can power the TV up that way. Where's the TV going to go?
Right. So you can help answer that, Steve, but from previous sessions, previous shows, it may be difficult to have for each exhibitor to have a stand, a TV stand, but probably by the corner, just for the show, for the whole pavilion.
Okay, so I would just need to know placement of where you want it. And yeah, we can provide a TV.
Right.
But I need to know ahead of time so I can have a way to run the cables through the walls so they're concealed. So
another question is, you mentioned the display cabinet is lockable. Who provide the locks?
The lock and key. I mean, the lock's built into the cabinet. And the keys are with each cabinet.
Right. Then shelf sizes. What are the size of the shelf, Steve?
The shelves on the back wall are 44 inches wide by 14 inches deep.
Right. Yeah. So I think so. Both David and Catherine, your question has been answered. Right. Let's see. So Sarita, yes, there will be Wi-Fi. As usual, there will be Wi-Fi at the Javits Center.
Are you asking me that?
No, yeah, I'm just responding to one of the questions.
Okay. Yeah. So that's one thing that I do not include Wi-Fi.
Right. So another question, Steve, is there space for a microwave or a freezer in the booth?
Yeah, yeah, we got to know where you want it. The freezer would need 24-hour power, so that I did. So the additional power I would not have had figured into the original RFP, but it can be done. I don't, if it's a big freezer, I don't think you have room for, I don't know where you put it. Because remember, you got a display case, two display cases in front of each 10 by 10 area.
Okay. Thank you. There's a question about meeting rooms. So this person will share it with the event organizer in terms of how they are structuring it this year. And then we'll get back to you.
For a meeting
Right.
room?
Yes.
Yeah, that would, that's something I wouldn't really have any knowledge of.
Yeah.
That's usually done through the show organizers. And would have to be handled on your end.
Right.
Because I don't think they won't, and the reason being is they will, as your display house or third party, they won't give me the information for the meeting room that is done for one of the exhibitors.
Right. So there's a question, Steve, where will the products be displayed? By the display tables or what?
Well, there's two places. The display tables out front,
Yeah, the show.
and then each 4x8 panel will have up to 4 shelves that they can display product on as well.
Right. Thank you. I think I'm about to close this session and move on to the next one.
Because,
Yes, Erika.
hi, maybe just for everybody else, there's quite a few questions. There's some few questions in the Q&A as well. Maybe just everybody, what we'll do is we will collect all of the questions, and then we'll make sure to have Steve and Cos answer the questions, and then we'll email it to everybody, just to make sure everybody has the dimensions in writing and everybody has all the information that they need. Might be an easier way, in addition to how it was answered now.
That's fine by me. I would say at this point, because we have very, very little time to get this done with when the show is, what to ship by. So there can't really be any physical changes to the pavilion because construction's already started.
Right.
So the design is the design.
Right.
I just want to make sure we're just clear on that. So we can't do any physical changes to the pavilion at this point.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much, Steve. So we'll harvest all the questions and revert to all the participants with the answers. Thank you very much. Now we're moving on to the next item on the agenda. Steve, can you unshare? Right. Next on the agenda is Haughey Masibi Mampane. She's Consul Political and Trade Relations in the South African Consulate General in New York. The SA Consulate General has been a great partner since we started supporting the Summer Funds Food Show in 2017. And Haughey is one of the key persons that we collaborate with. She's a seasoned diplomat, has been in the diplomatic service for 12 years. And she specializes in market analysis, including risk factors and how to scout markets and opportunities in emerging markets. So without further ado, I hand over to Haughey. Haughey, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, can hear. Yes, we can hear and see you now.
Thank you very much. Okay,
Excellent.
thank you. I'm just going to share my screen quickly.
Right.
Okay. Thank you very much, Cos. So as Cos said, my name is Haughey Mampane and I'm consul here at the South African Consulate General, responsible for political and trade affairs. And really just our session today will be speaking to how to make the most of the summer fancy food show this year. This is the program outline. I know Cos spoke earlier on about our program running from the 9th to the 15th. I didn't necessarily enter the other dates because it's just a few hours in those dates, but I think the core part of our program will be on the 9th and the 10th, which is very instrumental for your visit to the US outside of the actual show. And so on the 9th of June 2022, which would be your arrival date, we are planning on having a market intelligence session for the entire group. And the purpose of this is to sort of prepare you before you start your engagements at the show so that you can understand the market that you're operating in. You can do your market analysis. You can understand what the interest and palettes of the audience is in the US. What we also have sort of set aside for that day is B2B scheduled meetings. And I'll speak to that when I get into the detail of the program for that day. On the 10th of June 2022, at the beginning of the day, which is right early in the morning, we've also scheduled about an hour and 15 minutes for B2B meetings, which will be followed by what we are currently working on with New York City, a warehouse tour and a retail tour. I know that a request was sent out to companies just to sort of list retail or retailers that they might be interested in visiting. And while we may not be able to meet everyone's desires or requests, we just want to be able to sample and get an idea of where the interest is and try and build from that. And given that the program is very dense and we don't have a lot of time, we sort of have to make sure that we fit in as much as we can, but also give value for both tours, both the warehouse and the retail tour. And so as it relates to the market intelligence session, what we want to sort of cover on that day is trade financing. And we are looking for a partner in that regard, particularly for companies that would be coming in for the first time into the US and are just looking to see what are the options that are available. We also are engaging with RangeMe, which is an e-commerce platform, and they'll also share just ideas on how to trade on a platform such as RangeMe in the US. We also want to have or working on having somebody from a fulfillment service sector, warehouse, and in the food industry who can sort of speak about the types of warehouses you should be looking at, what the value of having a warehouse or a fulfillment service provider is for you as a food exporter, and what opportunities are available in the market. And we'd also be bringing in somebody who's going to speak about doing business in New York as it relates to food distribution within the city, so that you sort of understand and get a better feel of who your target market is, where you should be going in, how it actually filters in the market once you've entered the market, as opposed to just coming in and trying to bait the entire market. And then we would like to have successes and experiences shared by a past participant of the Fancy Food Show. And the reason why we wanted to do this is because when we spoke about it with Bing, I shared with her that I saw a product at one of the retail stores here that was South African. And I remember seeing the name from the Fancy Food Show group. And I thought it would be very, very valuable to just hear what their successes were, what their experiences were, any challenges they encountered, just firsthand experience and information that could be very valuable for companies that are coming in for the first time or the second time, and they just want to understand the nuances. And then as it relates to business scheduled meeting, I think this is very, very critical. We recommend that companies begin working on securing meetings. If you're able to do that ahead of time, you've already won the first leg of the show, right? So what you want to do is you want to start your desktop research right away and try and understand what is going on in the market, who are your competitors, which retailers actually have the products that you want to bring into the market. What is just their general assessment as to what is coming from other markets? Is there an interest from other markets? And then start reaching out to them. And this is the B2B that we spoke about. We've allocated 1 hour, 20 minutes on the first day, which is Thursday, and 1 hour, 15 minutes on the Friday morning at the consulate, where you can come in and have these meetings with the buyers. And this is obviously ahead of the actual show. So already you are working at an advantage if you're able to secure these meetings, because then by the time the show starts, you've already engaged with some of these buyers. So this is really something that we encourage you to do. But what we're also going to ask you to do is to make sure that once the meeting is confirmed, you share with us the details of the meeting, who you're meeting, what time you're meeting them, because we do have very limited space in the consulate. And given the increase in the COVID cases, we are trying to manage just the rooms and how many people we have at a time. So that is very important, remembering that we have 2 days that we set aside for the B2B meetings, and that we would need the confirmation ahead of time so we can schedule a room for you or a space for you and the potential buyer or importer. Second to that, very, very critical for you to research similar products in the market. It's very, very important that you know what products are already in the market, what are the similarities, what are the differences, and where do you find these products. If you don't necessarily know where to go, it might be prudent if you have networks, if you know somebody, reach out to your networks and ask them to create those linkages on your behalf. But I think one of the benefits that you can get from this experience is making sure that you have pre-arranged meetings with potential partners. Sorry. And then as it relates to market interaction and engagement with the warehouse tour. So part of the reason why we thought this would be prudent is because a lot of times when people come into New York or New York City, there's a huge focus on Manhattan as a base. And what we've learned over time is that there are other opportunities in the four boroughs of New York City. And this is why we want to do the warehouse tours outside of Manhattan, which are likely to be less expensive and more receptive, right, to the type of product that we want to present. So the reason for this warehouse tour is to just provide you with an opportunity to scout potential food distribution centers and assess the distance between those warehouses and Manhattan. Because even if you're trying to sort of break into the main New York City market, you just want to also be able to gauge and understand what is the food distribution channel, how does it go from the warehouse into the city. But also the reason why we want to do this, even though on the first day we're going to have a market intelligence session, we will have a speaker, the idea is to try and visit at least 2 warehouses. That way you're able to explore if there are any potential partnerships that you can develop with any of those warehouses. As it relates to the retail tour, the whole purpose of this is really to give you a first-hand experience and understanding of what the products look like in store, what type of products they have that are similar to your products, or if they come from another country, how are they labeled, how are they packaged, but also just to get an opportunity to engage with the actual retail store and find out how they receive or how they get products into their store. So really these 2 visits or these 2 tours become very, very instrumental for you post the show, because you're able to then understand the market that you want to go into. You know which type of retail store would be most suitable for your product, and you understand the little nuances and the little detail that has to go in when you package your product for this market. And this is something that we speak about a lot of the times, that your packaging in South Africa may not necessarily be prudent for this market. And part of the reason why we want to do this market engagement is so that you understand how this market operates, how companies sort of attract buyers to their products, and how those products are then shelved when they get into the retail store. And so on the 13th of June, this is just something that we're still working on. We'd also like to host a reception, and you will note that this reception will be in the evening, of course, because you will be at the show during the day. But this reception is during the show. And the reason why we also sort of thought it might be suitable to do it this way is that during the show, you will also meet a number of buyers, potential partners, and therefore this will create an opportunity for you not only to network, but to invite the people that you met at the show to the reception, right? Where you can have or continue the conversation away from the show. Of course, it is also a very risky thing or risky approach that we're taking, because we don't know at this point who will be able to come, who may not be able to come. But I think it speaks to just the importance of you generating leads while you're at the show and making sure that you draw in these buyers for the reception, and then continue the conversation with them at the reception. But I think more importantly, what you want to do during this reception is just gather a bit more intelligence, because it's a more relaxed environment. You want to gather intelligence on what the trends are and how best to position your product within the US market. So really, it's your chance to increase your brand exposure and explore partnerships outside of the more structured show that you would have attended during the day. Yeah, and I think really that's about it from us. But on the 15th of June, just before I close, on the 15th of June, we would then have a debrief session where we just want to speak about what worked, what didn't work, where we could improve, and what are the things that you think were valuable that we should retain. But more than anything, what would be very crucial is just understanding what are the areas of improvement going forward for other shows. If you have any questions or you want to reach out or send an email, please feel free to email my colleague, Ms. Bing Alobilariel, and her email address is there. If you're not able to get it right now, we can just ask USAID to send it through to you. So, yeah, thank you very much.
Hofi, thank you very much for that presentation and all the efforts to add value to this event. Obviously, it's a big investment, flying from the region to New York. So there must be a lot of value that needs to be added around it. And we thank the SA Consulate for coming on board, as always, as usual, to support in many ways, supporting the exhibitors from the region. Many thanks. I think we are done on that. We can move on to the next segment. Right, so the next presenter is George Wood. He's with DHL Express. So he's going to talk to us about shipping products to the United States. George has been with DHL for over 4 years now, and plays a key role as the bridge between network operations, commercial teams, and customers. So over to you, George.
Thanks, Cos. Okay, welcome everyone. I'm just going to go over something that's sometimes very daunting for customers, and that's how do we get our goods to the destination internationally. It's not as difficult as everyone thinks, and you've got a lot of support here. You go on mute, Cos, please. Thanks. Yeah, it's not as difficult as everyone thinks, and if you do your due diligence, things should go pretty smoothly. Next slide, please. And next one. So I'm going to talk about exporting from South Africa. So there's no specific export controls for food and beverages being exported internationally from South Africa. So the minimum document requirements would be the airway bill, the commercial invoice, the clearance instruction, which unfortunately is applicable to all export shipments nowadays, and then any required destination import permits or certificates, and we'll come to that a little bit later. Next slide, please. Okay, so when we're shipping internationally, data quality is key. It's a buzzword all around the world at the moment, and customs authorities are really pushing for good quality data. Now, what does that mean? Well, it varies between country and country, and it's very complex. So before shipping internationally, it's essential that the shipper conduct your due diligence, so your own research, and be familiar to where you're exporting to. okay? And the requirement, because you know your products, so you need to do the research and say what is required at destination to clear those products into those countries. Okay, there are a lot of people that can help you. So it's your industry bodies. They can help you with advice shipping internationally. Your Chamber of Commerce, okay, the Department of Trade and Industry. They're all there. So there's a lot of people, and we can point you in the direction of these people, and even companies such as Deloitte, who specialize in international trade consultancy. Okay, so there's lots of avenues that you can go, and you can get that information to make sure you're compliant when you ship internationally. But one common essential requirement from all customs authorities across the globe is to ensure that the commercial invoice electronic data is provided and is complete and accurate. Okay, and this ensures that you have a smooth customs clearance. Next slide, please. Okay, so when we talk about the commercial invoice, this is the most important document that is going to go with your shipment. I'm not going to go through it all, and I will share the slides after this webinar, okay, because there's a lot of information on it, and there's a lot of really good links that'll help you as you prepare for the New York exhibition. So I'm just going to go on a couple of key ones. So what we've got there is we've got to really look at the goods description, okay, the harmonized tariff code, the value, for exhibition, if I remember rightly, for exhibitions in the US, okay, the consignee, the US consignee or importer must have a valid US tax ID or social security number. If not, then the goods must be sent on an ATA carnet, which is a temporary import into the US. Okay, so next slide, please. So we mentioned the goods description, and this is key. So what we've got here is you'll see some examples of unacceptable and acceptable. Apologies, this is not food related, but it gives you a sense of what customs across the world are looking for when it comes to good, proper goods descriptions. So unacceptable there, we'll use samples, okay? That's too generic. And we don't want something too technical, okay? So we need a layman's term. So when a customs officer looks at the waybill and then looks at the shipment, they can say, yes, that's it. So samples of curtains or interior blinds, or maybe a curtain or bed valance of cotton. So what is it? What is it made for? And just a layman's term of what it is. So not generic samples, not technical or with brand names. Don't use brand names. What is it? What's it made of, and what's it for? Okay, let's move on because I'm a little bit concerned about the time as we've run over a little bit. So the next one is when you're exporting from South Africa, there is the tariff available, and it is available for download by the general public. And I put the link on this slide. As I said, we'll share the slides afterwards. So what you've got to understand is, so for every commodity, there is a code. It's sometimes a lot more than 6 digits. It can go to 8 to 10 digits, but the first 6 digits are internationally recognized and harmonized all over the world. As an exporter, it is your responsibility to classify your goods, okay? If you find it too arduous, then please go to a trade consultancy firm that can specialize in this, and they can help you classify your goods. Unfortunately, DHL Express, we can't, but we can put you in touch with the experts. Oh no, just back. please. That one. Okay, and I'm just going to touch on the country of origin. That's always good to have on your commercial invoice at line item level, and that is where the goods were produced or manufactured, because sometimes the goods can come from other countries, but if it's manufactured, say in South Africa, the goods come from, say, Zambia, and then it's turned into something else, then your country of origin would be South Africa. Okay, next slide, please. So let's talk about importing into the United States. Next slide, please. Okay, so these are some of the key documentation requirements that our colleagues in the US have sent over for us. And this, so the waybill, complete and accurate goods description must be indicated, very important. Commercial invoice, obviously the most important document. So goods, clear breakdown of all costs separately, so goods value, freight, insurance, etc. And if there are any signature requirements also. Then we've got, because this is food related, we've got FDA, which I'm going to go into a little bit more detail in a couple of slides. And that includes the next one, which is the permits, the FDA permits. The US systems, you've got USDA APHIS, which is the Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service. And you've also got certificates such as phytosanitary certificates or agricultural permits, depending on the commodities you're sending. Next slide, please. So the fact sheet, so what's the customs clearance operational setup? Well, clearance is done by DHL Express or the consignee's nominated broker. Authorized economic operator, yes, DHL is Customs Trade Partnership Against Terrorism program in the US. We provide 24/7, 365-day-a-year clearance. Power of attorney, yes, it is required by regulations for over shipments of $5,000 and also FDA shipments, which is the US Food and Drug Administration. The de minimis, this is good. This is $800, so very high. Then DTP, can you send duty and taxes paid, which is our billing term, which is similar to DDP, which is deliver duties paid. Okay, so you pay the duties in the origin country. Tax ID required, yes, for goods over $2,500, but as I mentioned earlier, exhibition materials, you've got to have a tax ID or a social security number, and if not, you will need an ATA carnet. Next slide, please. Okay, this is just a little bit of the low value and the high value. So low value, that's under 2,500. There are restricted commodities, which unfortunately food comes under that. Yes, DHL can clear, however, it'll probably be the importer of record in the US. They may nominate their own broker. And prior notice on all food items is required by the US Border Protection. Next slide, please. Which we're going to have a look at in a bit more detail now. And I've skipped through quite quickly on these slides so we can concentrate on this. So the Public Health, Security and Bioterrorism Preparedness and Response Act of 2002 requires the FDA receive prior notification of food, including animal feed that is imported or offered for import into the USA. Advance notice of import shipments allows the FDA, with the support of the US Customs and Border Protection, to target import inspections more effectively and help protect the nation's food supply against terrorist acts and other public health emergencies. So DHL, we can create the prior notice on your behalf at the time of entry. The service is $10. If a prior notice has already been created, then it should be submitted with your paperwork. I put on there a very handy link to the FDA guidance document, which is very comprehensive. And we'll share the slides after the webinar. And a quick one with the requirements of importing food products into the US, detailed description, the ingredients, manufacturer's name and address, the prior notice, although this can be created by DHL at the time of entry, and then the FDA DUNS number. That's not required for personal use. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, the US team, they did just highlight a couple of additional import requirements, and that was the Federal Food, Drug and Cosmetic Act. Importers of food products intended for introduction into the US interstate commerce are responsible for ensuring the products are safe, sanitary, and labeled according to US requirements. Just note there that all imported food is considered to be interstate commerce. And then a little bit more, imported food products are subject to FDA inspection, which we've already talked about. Yep, and in compliance, and they've got to be found, they've got to be in compliance with the US requirements, otherwise they will be returned. Okay, so next slide, please. What have we got there? We got another slide. There we go. So also I've got a few useful customs links there. And I just wanted to touch before we finish. So we're looking at New York City. So we've had a look at our best transit times from Cape Town and Johannesburg, and we're achieving 2 days if you arrange for a collection Monday to Wednesday. So days 1, 2, and 3. And then we're looking at about 3 days Thursday, 4 days on a Thursday if you ship on a Thursday, and 3 days from a Friday. So that's being delivered day 1, which is Monday the next week. These may be longer, and especially if you're shipping in the States, it's a very large country. So we usually see about +1 day if you go to West Coast. And then, yeah, it's East Coast is usually about 3 days, and then West Coast about 4 days. However, we still got COVID. Unfortunately, it's not gone away. So there may be some capacity issues. We're still seeing large volumes, and maybe some connectivity issues further afield. Clearance can be delayed if the paperwork is incorrect. So really look at your paperwork, make sure the data quality is 100%. And a quick note, if the shipment isn't customs cleared in 10 days, it will be RTO'd, so a return to origin. Okay, and that is a US customs requirement. So we start the paperwork for RTO after 8 days. The legal limit for the US, you're allowed up to 15 days in bond, but it'll be returned within 10. Okay, and that's it from me. I hope it's not too daunting, but we are here to help.
George, thank you very much for that presentation. And yeah, that's very useful information there. And there are a number of questions in the chat box. I think we'll quickly attend to them. Allow me to call upon Erica to go through the recent tool that has been developed, the Cape Trade Portal. So Erica is the head of export promotion and outward foreign direct investment at Westgroup. Erica, over to you without further ado.
Thank you, Cos. Yeah, and thank you for the introduction as well as for the opportunity to be here. As Cos said, I'm Erica. I'm the head of export promotion at Wesgrow. Wesgrow is the official trade and investment promotion agency for the city of Cape Town, as well as the Western Cape province, and we're mandated to support exporters with exporting their goods and services to the rest of the world. Most of you'll be able to stop sharing. I just want to share my screen. We are, give me 1 second. We are mindful of time, so I am going to whiz through this very quickly. Give me 1 second. And now I'm not able to share. Let me just see. And I'm not entirely sure. Can you guys see my screen?
Not yet, Erica.
Mimosa or Cos, I'm not sure if you guys have disabled once you stop sharing.
I am disabled. Yeah,
Are
there
you
you
able
go.
to see my screen now?
Yes,
Is it the Cape Trade portal?
yes. Welcome to the Cape Trade portal.
Perfect, and I'm very happy. Okay, perfect. And this is really exciting. Just to imagine today on the call, we're over 40 companies and support organizations such as TIKZN and ECDC and Northern Cape Department of Economic Development and Tourism and Natural Products Association of Botswana, USAID, Wesgrow, and of course, several others across Southern Africa, collaborating to participate at Summer Fancy Foods to support exports from Southern Africa to the US. I will also attend Summer Fancy Foods in person, and I'm really looking forward to connect with and support all the exporters as well as the support organizations while we're in market. As I said earlier, is Wesgrow, as other support organizations, our mandate is to support Western Cape exporters with exporting their goods and services to the rest of the world. And over the last year, we've really thought about how do we go about it? How do we leverage technology to expand that reach and appeal of the export support services that we can provide. And as such, we've launched the Cape Trade portal, and you can access it on www.capetradeportal.com in February this year. And the Cape Trade portal accesses two things. The one, it's a virtual marketplace to connect Western Cape exporters with international buyers 24/7. And then secondly, we also have a resource center to support exporters with intelligence, expertise, tools, collateral, to really help exporters on their journey, either a new exporter starting their journey or an existing exporter looking to expand the exports either into an existing market or into a new market. And then, of course, in addition to the Cape Trade portal, it's one thing to be able to build the house of the Cape Trade portal, but we need to make sure that the international community is aware of it. So Wesgrow collaborated with our, the export unit collaborated with our marketing team to start a marketing campaign, really positioning the Western Cape and South Africa as a sought after source market for quality goods and services to help drive international buyers to the portal, make them aware of a place called Cape Town, of the Western Cape province, of South Africa, and you can access quality goods and services here, and you can access that through the Cape Trade portal. We've just launched, we've got a lot of work to do, but we're pretty happy with the results thus far. Since February, we had 136,000 hits to the site. Our first market that we launched into was the UK, so 105,000 hits was from the UK, across 76,000 unique users. We've got over or close to 2,200 products added to the site with just over 500 exporters. Over the next year, we're really looking to support the entire Western Cape exporter database, which is close to 7,000 exporters. Maybe just to give you a quick overview, again, access www.capetradeportal.com. We have the for buyers section, which is the marketplace. So it's the first thing that you will land on. And this is built for trade. So you can either, I know I'm looking for a specific product code. So I'm looking for tea. So I put in 090210. So I can either search green tea for this particular way. I can go through categories. We've tried to visualize some of the categories here as well. I'm just going to go with green tea at this point in time. Let's hit submit. and then being able to source all the different key green tea products that's on the portal. You're also able to filter on the left-hand side by distribution channel, by facility certification, by product certification. Am I FDA approved? By BEE. So we had focus group with buyers to understand what type of filters and searches do they need to narrow the product that they're looking for. And then I'm going to use an example here. I know Cacao, they're actually joining and will be exhibiting at Summer Fancy Foods. So is Cape Honey Bush. If I take Cape Honey Bush, view, and you're able to view the particular product, any certifications, other products by this particular exhibitor, as well as the company information, just basic information in an overview, as well as the exporter experience. And through it all, the buyer will be able to access this particular seller because the contact information remains completely visible. If the buyer is unable to find what they're looking for, it's very easy for them or for us as Wesgro to post a trade lead on their behalf. And the idea is just to make the process a little bit easier. So if we're at Summer Fancy Foods, somebody is looking for a particular product, that product is not available at the Summer Fancy Foods stand or through the Cape Trade portal. The buyer, or again, us on behalf of the buyer, will be able to post a trade lead. I'm using this one as an example. We had a European buyer that was looking for fresh produce. One of our export managers, Kerwin, posted this trade lead, and immediately all the exporters that's listed on the Cape Trade portal will receive an email notification. There is a trade lead for all fruit types and fresh produce. Here's the buyer's details. Please contact him or her directly. So ultimately, again, we're in the beginning stages, but our aim is that all of the missions we're doing going forward will be hybrid. Yes, we'll go into market. We'll support Western Cape exporters in market for trade exhibitions such as Summer Fancy Foods, but we're also taking the Cape Trade portal with being able to connect exporters that's not able to exhibit at the stand through the Cape Trade portal. And then, of course, all the companies that's exhibiting in the missions we're doing, we're encouraging them to join the Cape Trade portal, because through that, we're connecting with buyers separate to what the companies are connecting, and we can direct them to you through the Cape Trade portal, and then, of course, to your stand as well. Additionally, and I'll be very quick, yes, it's a marketplace, but it is also a resource center. Here, have a look around. This is open for everybody. The marketplace is open for Western Cape exporters only because that's Wesgro's mandate. But the resource center, that's open for everybody, irrespective of where you're based. Here you can access all the missions we're doing. You can access training we're doing. But one of the things that I did want to highlight is the regulatory and compliance section. Again, if I am able to access the ITC, and there's different tools available, but if you want to understand better, what is it that I need to do to take my product into the US or into a different market? So I am exporting from South Africa. For those that's not familiar with the tool, I'm exporting, let's use the United States in this particular instance. Let's keep it to green tea, 090210, and you'll see tea will be brought up. So South Africa to United States, here's the tariffs that apply, MFF Beauty, preferential tariff under AGOA, which of course we have, as well as the GSP. You can find the different trade agreement details. You can also look at what is the different requirements, what's the labeling requirements, what's the packaging requirements for me to be able to export tea from South Africa to the US. There's a lot of information available. I won't go through all of it now, but I just wanted to highlight some of the features that is available through the Cape Trade portal. Again, we're pretty excited about it. It's new days for us, but we are looking to expand it and really for this to become a digital partner for the Wesgro export unit, but also for exporters based in the Western Cape as well as importers globally. If any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Erica, thank you very much. It's an amazing tool with the copying, if I can put it that way. A lot of business is now being conducted digital. A lot of tools are being digitized. So you've taken a very good step there. Thank you very much for that presentation. Now we're moving on to question and answer. I'm mindful of time. With your indulgence, if we can conclude at 20 past, so allowing 8 minutes question and answer. Let me also mention that, as indicated earlier, the show organizer did not manage to join us. So if there are some questions that we do not have answers for, we will reach out to them and then respond, possibly by the end of the week. Right, thank you. I see we've got Chilesha Chewa. She's got a hand up. Please quickly come on camera. Chilesha, are you there?
Of course, just I believe, I'm not sure if the participants are able to open up cameras and to
Okay.
attendees, so they might have to go through the Q&A and then answer it from there.
Right, perfect. We've gotten a number of questions and some have been attended to. Let me see. So there's a question around measurements. And I think Steve attended to that question. I don't know if it's we still need information about that. Steve, can you just help with the question around the measurements of the shelves again?
Yes, so each shelf is 14 inches deep, 44 inches wide.
Right. Thank you. I think that question is answered. Then the next part is to do with the storage of the products. From previous experience, we never had a storage room, but people would leave their wares, one in the lockable cabinets, as well as within the booth themselves. We never experienced any problem. Obviously, you don't need to leave behind any precious stuff in your booth or in the lockable folder cabinets. Right. The other question is from Mary, also on the dimensions. That has been answered. The storage is also answered. When will we see the final artwork layouts for our booth? Steve?
As far, what are you looking for there? You mean a drawing of the entire pavilion?
Yes, that's the question here. When will we see the final artwork? The layout of the booths.
To be honest with you, I was not planning on doing one. We know what from the floor plan of the show. We know where your booths are, and the CAS I showed you represent the concept. So I hadn't planned on doing one. If you need one, I can, but it's going to take a couple days, and I can't wait.
Can I come in here quickly?
Yes, Mamosa. Thank you.
Yes. So yeah, the artwork designs, we'll share those with the firms as soon as we finish with the file. So everybody's backdrop artwork design is being finalized this week. We've used the images that have been shared by firms, some of which we already had. So we plan to share that with you, but we will not have a lot of time to go back and forth on layout and design, because we actually sourced the pictures from firms and we asked from firms themselves. As Steve has mentioned, we have a very short window now to submit all that artwork to go in.
That is correct. I
Okay.
agree with all that.
All right. Thank you very much. So if there are any other questions that have not been attended to, we apologize. I know Eric and the USA Trade Up team, they also need to rush to another external event. But we treasure the questions, we'll attend to them and revert. Please do not wait for for us to get back to you. If you have got something really burning, you can reach out to your respective teams, USA Trade Up team, the consulate, also Westgrow for answers. Also even Steve, who is on the call. Right. So this now takes me to the next step, where we're talking about events such as these that have taken place in the past. Please feel free to visit our website, www.sathub.com, for past webinars, so you have access to videos, recordings of the previous events. So that's our website for you. Right, there are upcoming events. We've got exporting to the US this is a webinar that will be led by the Gauteng Growth and Development Agents. It's going to take place on May the 24th. We also have an event on the exporting ingredients for cosmetics and food ingredients to the United States. This event is going to take place on June the 1st. Then we also have June 9, we will have another event that will be led by the Mpumalanga Economic Growth Agents, MIGA, that will be taking place on June the 9th. So these are SA provincial focused webinars, but obviously we welcome other participants from other provinces or other countries as well. Then June 12 to 14, that's when we have the Summer Funds Food Show that will be taking place in New York. And we also have the South Africa AGOA Exporters Awards event taking place on June 29. And the regional one, we've got the regional event that will be taking place on July 28. So for more information about USA Trade Hub and other activities, support mechanisms in place, please feel free to reach out to your in-country representatives. In each of the 9 countries, we have got representatives there from Angola, Botswana, Eswatini, Lesotho, Malawi, Mozambique, Namibia, South Africa, and Zambia. Please feel free to reach out. Those are the details that are being projected. Right? Right. So allow me to thank everyone, to thank our host, that's Westgrow, one of our key partners in the region. Thank you, Erica and team, for hosting this event. Also, allow me to thank the speakers, Steve Felder there, George from DHL, and also George from USA Trade Hub for the opening remarks, and also the teams, both USA Trade Hub team and Westgrow team, who were working in the background to make sure that this event happens. Thank you very much. A big pam to you. Also, the exhibitors that, I know there's been a lot of back and forth for information, just to make sure that everyone is ready. Thank you. This event is because of the exporters that we are trying to support. Also, many thanks to our partner, the South African Consulate in New York, Ohafi and Bing. Those are long-standing partners for USA Trade Hub. The success, we cannot mention the success that has been generated in New York without mentioning the SA Consulate. Thank you very much. So with those words, allow me to wish everyone a good evening this side and a good afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your day in New York. Thank you very much.
Cos, sorry, just to interrupt you for 1 second. There's been about 50 questions that we fielded. So just to let the exporters know, we'll work with you and consulate and just to put all of those questions together, and then we'll send out a mini FAQ in the next day or 2. I think they're all important, just because otherwise everybody's going to get the same question over and over again.
That's a good idea. Thanks, Erica, for that. Also to encourage members to visit, exhibitors to visit the trade show website. They also have frequently asked questions there. So some of the questions that you might have are already answered. So familiarize yourself, please, with the show website. It's been posted in the chat box. So yeah, like Erica said, we'll also reach out to the show organizer for some of the questions. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kaz.
Luba, we can close the webinar. Is Gabriela here?